YouTube, my name's Lance and welcome to Bundy Bear Shed. Well, this is just a little video on replacing a head gasket or actually fitting a cylinder head on a TE20. The TE20, the same process goes for both. Now this block I have, it's been a long project. I've had the brand new liners put in, new pistons, rings, bearings, gudgeons, had the conrods resized, the whole lot, and it's actually been sitting for a while. I've brought other projects in the meantime, but the time has come, so we'll just set the head on. We won't cover setting the tappets and all that. This is just about just a small process of dropping a head on. Now you'll notice there's a few bolts here with big washers. When I put the liners in, the wet liners in years ago, I Loctited, used 515 Loctite around the copper rings down the bottom, clamped them down, put some big washers on, so the whole time that it's been sitting, waiting for me to get back to it, the liners have been clamped in place properly. They're nice and level. We shouldn't have any problem with that. But in saying that, once we pull these bolts out and put the head gasket on, or go to put the head gasket on, during that process we don't want to turn the engine over, because when you turn the engine over, just the ring tension on the side of the ball, when you pull the piston up, it is possible for these liners to move. Now if you see the liner move, it's all over Red Rover. Chances are that if that liner lifts and you drop it back down, you probably will have a water leak, where water leaks back into your sump. I've tried in the past to get away with it and it's always bit me on the bum. So if you do notice your liner move, deal with it now. It's going to be a lot easier. So on this video, we're going to fit some new head studs. Yeah, the others are 70 years old, so we're going to put a run of 10 head studs into the block. The head studs, we're using Sparex parts. Sparex are a sponsor of our channel. The head stud number is S43636, and there's 10 of those. The nuts have a flat side. There's a little flat on one and they're a bit rounded the other. The flat side, of course, goes down to the cylinder head and gives you a nice flat surface to torque it up on. The nuts number is S41328, and the VRS gasket set we're going to use, it's Sparex number S42085. Now, this is my preferred VRS set. You can buy just a head gasket if you want to, but I sort of think, well, what's the point? This set has your head gasket, your manifold gaskets, your tappet cover gasket or rocker cover gasket, your exhaust flange gasket, your carburetor gasket, and it may, yes, and there's the thermostat gasket up in this corner here. So there's a bit of glare there, a bit hard to see. So I like this Sparex kit. I've used it quite a bit, and we'll just run through fitting that today. The head studs, they just screw into the block. There's a coarse end on the head studs and a fine end. Now before you go doing this, clean out all your holes. If you need to run a tap down them, they're 7/16 UNC. So, and the fine thread on the top's 7/16 UNF. But blow all the holes out, make sure there's no junk down the bottom. The head stud should be able to screw right the way down, so you don't see any thread sticking out up the top, just above the block there anymore. You must make sure that this surface is very clean. Cleanliness is everything when you're putting a head gasket on. If you get the slightest bit of rubbish under the lip here or something like that, and it starts to burn the compression gases when you have the firing, it'll just find that little spot and it'll burn the gasket out for you. So You'll need a tension wrench. Now, to tension the head down, you actually start in the middle here, and look, if you read the book, it says go 1, 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, then 9, then 10. And the reason they do that is you start in the middle, and any tensions or any warpage or anything that's wrong with the head, you try and work it off the edge of the head. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, doing the crossovers, I was taught years ago by an old bloke, just work your way around, and I always go clockwise, or So the idea, if you do this one then this one, or this one then this one, it doesn't matter an awful lot. You just have to start in the centre and work your way off the edge of the head. Try and do it nice and evenly. Also, when tensioning the head down, I haven't even looked up the tension of these yet, but say it's 60 foot-pound, or I don't know what that is in Newton metres, but say it's 60 foot-pound, well, I usually like to start at, say, 30 foot-pounds and just run through. And the idea of that is that you're starting that process of bolting the head down nice and even. If there's any discrepancies, you're starting to work it out early, instead of just bang this one 60, bang that one 60, and these have nothing on them. So I usually like to start at about halfway, and if it's up around 100 foot-pound on some of the other tractors, I might go 30, 60, 100, do it in 3 steps. But in this one, we'll probably just do it in 2 steps, and we'll work our way up through. Now, the tension wrenches, when I owned the workshop, which I've sold, my workers bought it off me, we were tensioning heads down using tension wrenches every day. Back then we used to have $700 snap-on ones, digital ones and all that. It's just not necessary for the tractor enthusiast. If you have a cheaper brand, don't buy the junk. The flex bar ones where you just get the needle and the needle just looks, for a thing, they can be so far out. Probably if you have to buy one for the job, don't go that way. The ones that click over centre, dual signal, you can screw the handle up, they seem to be better. I've checked them against my snap-on ones in the past, and they're pretty close. And look, when you get to 60 foot-pounds, if you're actually doing it 61 or 62 foot-pounds, it doesn't really matter. Nothing's going to go bad for you. They'll be close enough, and the thing is, with the cheaper tension wrench that you may use for this job, it'll do just as good a job. What you're looking to do is have nice even pressure. So if it's 62 pound or 59 pound, and you're going for 60, and you do it up nice and even, way to go. I always, you probably shouldn't do it, but I always, if it says 60, I'll probably set it at 62 or 3 or something, just to make sure I have the clamping pressure. But anyway, look, follow along. I'll take these old head studs out. I'll show you what I do for them. Now, what you can do, I've got things that I can just screw down on and just rip them out, but what you can do is run a nut down here. Don't use your new nuts. Run another one down, lock them up, and that will lock onto the stud, then you can back them out. But use old nuts, not your new ones. Clean, there's just a little bit of paint overspray around here. I'll probably tidy that up a little bit. My threads are okay, but you need to actually check that they're all right. And the head studs, you'll notice when the heads come off this tractor, a couple of the head studs have come out with the bolts and things like that, so I normally Loctite them in. And by Loctiting them in, you've got a good solid fix down the bottom there. If there's anything going wrong down the bottom there that you've missed, it seals the thread up or something like that. That's just my choice. The book doesn't say to do anything like that, it's just what I like to do. So anyway, follow along. We'll try and make it nice and easy to understand. Well, the first job on our block is we make sure all the pistons aren't right up high. And look, the only reason for that is that I like to squirt a little bit of oil around, and on some other heads, not the Fergie so much, but if you have a valve set wrong or something like that, the piston can come and touch it. But first up, we'll get rid of these studs. Now, this is a stud remover. This is a commercially bought one. It's a Toledo, and you just wind him that way and it locks, or wind him this way and it locks, and the stud comes out. Then you can put your ratchet in the top and away you go. I probably should bring you over this way a little bit more. And there's one stud gone. Now, just check, the new studs are slightly longer, won't be a worry. They're made for the job. Now, if you haven't got one of these, this is how you do it. You run a nut down on the fine thread, and these nuts are actually off the rear axle where I pull the axles out. So they're all UNF, 11/16 UNF. I'll just get my little shifter. Now we hold the bottom one and we tighten them against each other. Then, by turning the bottom one, that's how your stud comes out. These early studs, some of them had a little slot. I'll just see if I can get it where you can see it. Little slot in the thread. And that was to let any fluid or any oil or anything like that up out of the hole, so you didn't get a hydraulic lock. So that was just to make sure there was no build up down the bottom end there. Now at this stage, we can undo these liner bolts, but we do not turn the engine over with those off. Just as a point of interest, these bolts here, they're the ones that you can actually take off your side covers where your PTO lever is. They're the right thread, and you just put a big washer over them. I'll just undo these fellas. Right, and we'll get ready to put the new studs in. Okay, I've just cleaned this surface. What we do now is we just put a little bit of oil around each piston. And look, not a lot, just a little bit. Now, at this stage of the game, you should have your cam followers in. Make sure they're in. Otherwise, you just drop a tad of oil down in the hole of them. And look, it's just for initial start up, so there's a bit of oil there, they're not running dry. And I've also used Loctite primer on the studs. So all I do is just a little bit of Loctite. We've cleaned all the stud holes out. We just do them up firm. No big deal with this job. They don't have to be tight, just down tight, nice and firm. You can do this with your two nuts as well, like you took the other one out. No problem there. And there's a little bit of Loctite around here. I usually like to wipe that up now before it goes hard. Sometimes a chemical reaction goes out onto the surface here. So to keep the video a bit short, I'll put the new studs in and we'll come back in a minute. Okay, we've got all the studs in and now it's time to slide the head gasket on. Now, you'll notice I've got a little bit of blue here, that's Hylamar. And around the back corner here, there's a little oil pressure hole. I like to seal that up. I have, in the years gone past, had a copper head gasket, just a little leak down the back of the block. So I do that to get rid of that. Now, people will agree with putting something there, and some will, some won't, and there'll be 100 opinions on whether you should do that or not. And in all honesty, if you're relying on glue for your head gasket to seal, you haven't done the job properly. But sometimes with a copper head gasket, I've found that they can leak out the back a little bit. If you look at some of the older tractors, they leak down this pushrod side here. And that's just my way of making sure I've got a nice clean job all the time. And whether you put the Hylamar on yours, it's up to you. I just use Hylamar blue. You can get a pressure pack that's quite good, but on the copper head gaskets, it's important to retension them as well. So that's what I choose to do. Whether you do that or not, it's entirely up to yourself. Now here's the cylinder head. Now make sure that's all clean. We've had this serviced. We've put all new valves in, new valve springs, the whole works. We haven't skimped on anything. Make sure this is clean. I've cleaned that with a bit of brake clean and a bit of rag and blown it dry. Make sure it's all good. So if that's all good and this is all good, we should be able to drop the head on. I'll try not and kick the camera. And there you go, just like that. Now we'll run around the head bolts, we'll tighten them down and we'll go from there. Right, now at this stage it's time to pop the nuts down, and what I always do is just a little bit of oil on each one just to help them down. Not a lot, just enough to lubricate the thread. Now we'll run these down. These don't get any Loctite or anything like that on them, there's no need. And make sure the flat on the nuts is a flat that side and it's rounded this side. The flat goes down. Look, I've just put that one on. No, I haven't. Get your glasses on. Worst about being an old fart. Got to look at everything twice and still do it backwards. Now at this stage, I just try and put the same tension on all of them, just a little bit. Now the book says 60 to 65 foot-pound. So I've got this set at 30. So we'll just start and I'll zoom out a little bit. Now when you're tensioning something down, you don't reef on the spanner, you just have a nice gentle push. When you pull on it, try and make sure you have a nice, long, gentle pull. Not try and ratchet it back just as it's about to click off. Okay, that's at 30. And you see, even though we've done that one at 30 before, because we've pulled the others down and the head gasket's compressed a little bit, the 30 just pulls down a bit differently. Okay, we'll set the tension wrench to 60, then we'll come back. Okay, the tension wrench is now at 60, so we'll just run through once more. Nice gentle pull. I thought we were never going to get there. Wasn't really where I wanted it, was it? So there, that's 60. So So we'll just run through it again. Make sure we didn't miss any and things like that. So yeah, there you go, there's the head bolted down. Now we'll give it 10 minutes or so for everything to settle and find its happy spot, and we'll come back and just check the tensions again. Okay, we've waited a few minutes now, done all the important stuff, looked on Facebook and things like that. We're just going to run through it to 60 or 65 again. See, there's a little bit of difference, but not a... shouldn't be a great deal. And that's allowing if the head bolts have stretched a little bit or something like that. So there you go. Well, on this video for putting the cylinder head on, we actually just screwed the nuts down, and I thought about it and I thought, oh, it's just funny that they didn't have any hardened washers under it, and this tractor never had them when we pulled them off. So I went searching and had a look at one over in the paddock and had a look at my old gold thing and things like that, and they all had a hardened steel washer under the nut. So I went back and read the manual, read it right through the thing, and it says tighten the nut down onto the washer. So do that. Where I've tightened them down here earlier without the washer, I've undone the whole lot. I've just gone through the job again, making sure there was hardened steel washers there. So yeah, just a bit of a tip. They do have steel washers where I wasn't sure because this didn't have them. So someone must have lost them one time and I wasn't aware of it. So anyway, so there you go. So there you go, that's just a quick clip on putting the cylinder head on. We will do setting the tappets and that later on. I thought it would be better just to keep small clips. I don't have pulling the head off. I wasn't doing videos when I stripped this engine down. So over time it'll happen as I do the tractors up in the shed here. Yeah, we'll put the content on YouTube for you. Another thing, when you're finding a socket to use, whether it's a long socket or a short socket, you're playing with cylinder heads, wash them out inside. If you just pulled the axle off and you've got all grease and junk up your socket, don't put it down over your head studs. It's not good to do. Now, this is how I do the job. You might do it differently, or you may know people that tell you how to do it differently. That doesn't mean I'm right, they're wrong. It just means there's two ways to do a job. So this is how I do it. I've been in the trade 40 years to do it as a tractor mechanic, and now I've sold the workshop. This is how I keep my hand in, and having to fiddle in the shed. So look, that's all I have on this clip. Please like, subscribe and comment. Comment down the bottom. If you need a hand with something, give us a yell. check the eBay message, the YouTube messages very regularly, and or else Bundy Bear at queenslandtractorspares.com.au, and give us a shout out there. So that's it. Thanks for watching.